Hello everybody, welcome to another YouTube video. I am Robelle Autonomy and today we are reacting to another Wuthering Waves Resonator combat showcase. This one is for Galbrena. Alright, now I am a little bit late as per usual. I don't know what it is, but Wuthering Waves, Crow Games are always uploading the trailers when I am not ready, okay? It's like always moments after I turn off all of my equipment, after I'm, not ready to record, and while it doesn't take too long to boot all this stuff up, it is like, a little bit of a, what do I rather do all this when, when I have to take that extra step. And it's enough that I just didn't record this right away, but I haven't seen it yet. Galbrena is a character that a lot of people have been very, very excited for. She's been hyped up. And me personally, I am hyped for the character, but I've been holding myself back because I literally have no posts, right? If you go into my Wuthering Waves account right now, I'll have 10 posts to my name because I spent everything on Augusta and the and then I saw that the Yuno's weapon was a 40% DPS increase, which is diabolical that was even allowed. But I wanted that, so I pulled for a weapon. Somehow we got it off stream. It was a miracle. I don't know how it happened, but here we are. Actually, no, I didn't do it off stream. I did it on stream. Yeah, I did do it on stream. Anyway, basically, long story short, I have nothing left. Alright, Shuyuan and Galbrena are the characters where it's like, I can't even get them. Maybe if I spend money, but the thing is, I already gave Wuthering Waves some money, and I don't want to give them more money because I'm broke. So, without further ado, let's look at her combat showcase. Now, I will give you a fair warning at a time. We haven't really taken a deep look at her gameplay outside of the live stream, and even then, we kind of went over it very quickly. So here, I'm gonna go over everything frame by frame. We're gonna be pausing, we're gonna be super examining all the animation, all of that jazz. So, be prepared for a super extended thing, and then after, we will be watching it all the way through without pausing so we can enjoy the music and break that down as well. So, let's hop right into it. Alright, here we go. Alright, pause that. There we go. Here we go. Now, we're gonna be pausing, we're gonna be moving everything around, we will see. And already, I have to go over this frame by frame. I forgot, they always start the Resonator combat showcases with 2D little stingers of animation, and they're always brilliant. The one with Yuno was immaculate. Very, very extended, lots of beauty in her dancing. But this one, the art quality seems really, really high. There's multiple layers of shading. It almost doesn't even look like traditional 2D animation. It doesn't look like it's drawn to be traditional 2D animation. Obviously, it is 2D animation. But, it looks more like they just have a string of full-fledged illustrations. Like, looking at it right now, this is literally, how good, my drawings are. It's better than... And typically, 2D animation, they try to simplify to make sure that they can draw, the hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands of frames that they need, the animation, depending on the length required. But here... It looks like, because it's just a short stinger, they went all in with the detail, all in with the, again, this hair is gorgeous, right? It's not just, it's not just shading. There's the first layer of shading, then on the bottom is an extra layer of shading. And then, I'm gonna point this out here. If you look closely, there's a darker, it's not a line, it's faded out, right? There's a darker color right above the initial shading line. That is an extra step that a lot of animations don't do because it's too much work. They draw a billion of these, but it's okay. So let it play. I immediately went into observation mode. I am just such a big fan of 2D animation because I specialize in 3D. Oh my gosh. Alright, obviously 3D enemies. Yeah, if you look here, that is fully again, this thing didn't move, right? She's just... There is no... They only have to draw once, so they made it as detailed as it could be. Okay, let's go back a little bit, because there's actually so much here to break down. So, yeah, this whole beginning segment, it's 2D animation, it's my specialty. We're gonna be breaking this down super duper hard, okay? So, alright, I already went over all this. It's extra detailed. It's on the quality of a regular illustration, far above that you would see in something like, let's say, a regular anime. Also, keep in mind, these are gacha game characters. They're not designed to be 2D animated. They're designed to be made into a 3D model. It's a gacha character for a 3D gacha game, excuse me. They're designed to be made into a 3D model, so they make them extra detailed because they don't have to draw them over and over again. We just have to pose the model for their animation, alright? And then making the model is a lot of work, but when you design a character for 2D animation, you typically simplify the design a little bit. And in this case, not simplified at all, so the artists already have to draw a lot here. Now, if you look here, we're using very extra dynamic camera angles to try and keep her off screen. We're not trying to draw too much because she is extremely detailed, and we've already increased the art quality tenfold already. And this is the thing, right? When you have the art quality so high, you can't decrease it back to regular quality because it's going to be jarring. They have to keep drawing her at this high quality, so they're trying to keep her off screen a little bit here to, lower the workflow, which is very smart and it still looks great. More emphasis on the gun, and you can kind of tell. I'm pretty sure this gun, it's not just 3D, but they use the 3D model as a base. So either they traced it, or it is the 3D model and they put a bunch of filters and they traced over it, that they painted over it to make it look 2D. But at the very least, lots of smear frames. They don't want to draw too much here. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually didn't use her 3D model. Like, this isn't the 3D model. This is a 2D illustration. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had the 3D model and they traced over it to get all the details right. Now, of course, that doesn't mean they're just tracing over it like regular rotoscope, okay? A lot of artists will take some liberties. They will ignore what is underneath, ignore what they're tracing a little bit to give it a little bit of that squash and stretch to bring it more to life, and that is the artistic vision that you need the 2D artists for. Look at all these beautiful snare frames, wonderful. And then, yeah, you can definitely tell here. Alright, the line art is very, very clean, but if you look, there is a very clear sense of 3D. Even the artist is amazing, but I'm pretty sure they're tracing the 3D model for this shot. At least for this one from above. Again, that's fine. Alright, it looks gorgeous, and there's so many layers of shading. Alright, looking at her jacket here, there's the light layer, there's the base layer, and then there's the shading layer. That is a lot of extra. Like, if you were to break this down, there's so much here that... And yeah, again, this is multiple frames, right? So that's 3 drawings with this many layers of shading up to keep track of. That is insane. If you look at most animes, you only ever add 1 layer shading, some some highlights, or some extra dark shadows there. But it's typically limited to 3, right? With more detail in some parts, like let's say the eyes. But here, that's the entire illustration. And again, I pointed this out in the shot before, right? They add a dark color right before the shading, and it makes it stick out. Brilliant work. Again, they don't want to draw her face too much, too detailed, too much work, so they're making use of dynamic camera angles. Again, this is still a hard perspective to draw in, but if they are, this is all assumptions. If they are using the 3D model as a base layer to kind of trace over to rotoscope, then these dynamic angles are a bit easier, but again, it is up to the 2D artist to do some extra work here to ignore the model to make stuff look actually good. Because if you just trace a 3D model, it's not going to look that great. That's why when you see 3D animation, they have to squash and stretch the models into these most ridiculous, absolutely weird poses to make them look cool from specific camera angles. And that's just the nature of these animations. Anyway, I've already broken that out for 10 minutes. I'm sorry, we're only 10 seconds in, not even, we're 5 seconds in, and I'm already going yapped my head off. But again, there she's not, look, it's only one illustration, they're just zooming out. It's not a lot of insane work. A lot of these enemies are 3D models, and it looks great. Alright, extra detail on this little illustration of her here, and it blends in with all these 3D models of these enemies with a billion, trillion extra effects and filters over them. And one thing that's really cool, the light from her gun that she threw in the air, it's literally going past the widescreen. So that's very, very cool, actually. Well, yeah, actually, it's in a widescreen, and then there's a second layer of widescreen that is up there. Unless it's the roof to something, but I doubt it. It's a widescreen again here, and then the black bars are up top. I don't... Very odd direction, but looks really cool. Very striking. Actually, I want to check this out real quick, if they look. Okay, they did posterize the frame rate of the enemies, so I'm sure all of you can tell these enemies are indeed 3D, but they are animated at a much lower frame rate, and that is to make them blend in with our 2D character over there. Or it was like, so her dodging, it's literally, it's this drawing, and then they blow it out with white. Lots of bloom here to show the light from the energy blast. It's literally 2 drawings. There's this one. This is the same drawing, but they, put a bunch of lighting on it. And then there's the second drawing. And that's all they needed to give that movement of her dodging. Alright, and then this is one illustration again. The bullet zooming past her, right? Brilliant work, right? They can make the drawing super duper detailed, super striking. The illustration looks fantastic, and it gives the illusion that it is animated. But here's the thing. Even though it's not moving, it is still animated. You want to know why? Because animation is to give life to the inanimate. And guess what? She feels fully alive even in this because they gave her life by drawing her so beautifully. Again, right? It's barely animation. That's the 3D model of the gun. Actually, no. I think they traced the gun here. Either it's the 3D model. Actually, no. You can see this right here. That's some 3D artifacting from when you put some outlines on. No, but there's brush strokes. I don't know. Then in this that might just be a 2D drawing. I think they just traced the gun. But and it's just sliding the PNG with this super detailed illustration. By the way, this illustration, gorgeous work. Why do they actually animate the guys? No, they didn't. They just slid next to the base, link the PNG to the slide. These geniuses. They're literally geniuses. Okay, look at this again. Now the camera angles. They're trying to. Actually, this might even be. No, that isn't 3D. That is. Oh wait, maybe. I can't tell. The line art is so bold and sick. But like, it's so clean that I'm like, is it 3D? It might be 3D and then they just traced over it, I'll be honest. Either that or the 2D artists. I mean, again, they're insane, right? They've been staffing this entire 12 seconds that I've gone over. It's been 11 minutes. I'm sorry my breakdown is... Just the animation is so good, guys. I'm just such a sucker for this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, typically, you can tell it's their 3D model because they reuse the model from the games. And the model from the games, right, it doesn't have perfectly smooth edges usually, right? Usually it's the hair and the face that they smooth out. They use a very special type of scaling for that. But on the clothing, you achieve the textures. You could see the pixels in the textures. You could see the jagged polygons on some of the parts, like especially the fingers. But here, it is perfectly smooth. Like, okay, for example, the gun here, very clearly 3D. Why? You can see that you need anti-aliasing. You could see some jaggies on the sharp lines here. But everything else is completely smooth. But the thing is, the way it's traced, it feels kind of like that coloring is maybe not the... It might not even... No, it is traced. This is some really good work. I can't tell if they just slaved away at making this really, really clean. I mean, they didn't go over the gun. The gun, clearly, they didn't want to touch that. That was too much work. No, it's 1,000,000%. It's 2D art. They just, Again, you can see it's stretching and it looks a little bit weird on this frame. A little janky, but that's because it makes the motion look better. Okay, yeah, no, it's fully 2D. Holy mo! Here they kinda, you can see it's not as clean anymore. They care a lot less, but that's because it's a sneer frame. You're seeing this over the course it's one frame. Right now, this is animated at 24 FPS. So, having 1 or 2 frames will look janky, especially during a fast movement, it doesn't matter. And then again, alright, super detailed still image. It's a PNG and then just sliding it to the side. I think this is probably... Like, we've seen lots of 2D animation with their characters, but Galbrena is a character with so much detail and so much stuff in her design that it would be a nightmare to animate her normally. So they chose an art style and then animated it in such a clever way that it just looks like everything's in motion. Look, and she's not even like, it's not even animated. It was just drawing different... Okay, look, that's a smear frame. And then boom, still image. They're just doing effects work and then putting still images here or there and everywhere. It's the effects work that's carrying. This is brilliant work! And then, PNG of bullets. Actually, no, maybe not, that's a 3D model right there. 3D model of bullets, super duper high resolution models. Now, this is actually some of their best work. I'm sorry, guys. I have to go over this frame by frame. Look at this. Definitely didn't even draw the guy. It's just the head. It's a circle for the head and then a rectangle. A flipping rectangle, and then they just added glow effects on it. I mean, zoom in, boom, actually it's them. Okay, I'll be honest. There's no way to trace a 3D model. This is like so artistic. Maybe for just the face, but everything else is like the artist is going crazy. I like how they milked that twice. They spun her around. Okay, so that is animation, and then boom, whoop it again. You gotta get an extra 3 frames in. I mean, it really sells the motion now. And do the live 2D. We just made who live 2D. I'll try and slow down the break now for the 3D model part here with the actual con. Now we can look at her and guys, I don't have any pulls. I want to fool her. I don't have any pulls though. Again, alright, the Bayonetta. This is a Bayonetta attack, guys. I know everyone's like, oh, she's a Devil May Cry character. She's a Devil May Cry character with lots of Bayonetta and DNA in there. Alright, this is if you stole flipping Dante and Virgil and then combine them into one person and then had them have a baby with the Bayonetta and this is their child. Alright, if you are a fan of Devil May Cry and you haven't played Bayonetta, and hop on and that's your homework, guys. Play Bayonetta. Anyway. Holy moly, that move is so sick.
Let's settle the score.
Now I do like you can see she retreats during her moveset here. Okay, that move is insane. Is that like her punch attack? Does she just stay in the air and not plunge down? Oh, there's a punch, never mind. I don't know how you play her, cause like, I'll be honest, lots of the Bull characters, you have to like manage the resources, but you can get away with mashing for most of them. This character looks so Devil May Cry, so technical, that it's very much like, what's the optimal way to play her? And you know what? You're thinking, maybe there is gonna be an optimal combo that does the most damage, but that's not gonna be the ideal combo for every scenario, right? Sometimes you have to AoE, sometimes you have to single target, sometimes the single target is far away, so you gotta do something else to approach. Sometimes you're way too close, you gotta do something to retreat. Right? There's so many different scenarios, I always feel like a lot of people lock in on, oh, you have to play with this exact rotation. But like, you know, it's a game where there's a lot of flexibility in your character style, right? Your player expression. Oh my goodness, her ultimate is so sick. The liberation goes hard. I love the wings that just show up sometimes. Am I just gonna be button mashing to do all this crazy stuff, or are you gonna make me work for it? I would love it if they made me work for it. But if you could do the same amount of damage, but you could make it look 10 times cooler if you did all this extra tech skill stuff. But again, it's not harder than, or no, it's not more damage than just mashing. So it's accessible for the easy casual players, but then the not even the hardcore, the people that just want to show off, they can express themselves and do the same amount of damage while doing all this crazy cool stuff. I would love that. I would absolutely adore that. I would love it if these gacha games kind of embrace that a bit more, because like the thing is, and what I've noticed about the gacha community is a lot of the time people get upset when they don't have access to something that other people have. So I'm like, a character's value tends to go down if they're not easy to play, that's just the nature of the gacha space, especially because a lot of people play these games on mobile phones, which means you have to play with touch controls, and like, good luck with that, right? If you make a character complicated, yikes. Alright, you gotta make it so that they can mash the one button, maybe the 2 buttons, and they can do the whole combo. But may make it so that, you know, they can be happy mashing and still do the same amount of damage. But I can be doing all this crazy animation cancels, a backflip into doing a spin move, and doing all this extra stuff, and it still does the same amount of damage. You saw the DPS loss and do all this extra cool stuff. That is W designed to me. But I don't know, we'll have to wait and see until she releases. I'm saying all this like I'm gonna pull her, but again, I only have 10 pulls to my name and 0 pity. And I'm on 50-50. Like, getting Galbrena might be cooked. But gosh dang, she looks cool. I'll be honest, after the Augusta Wuthering Waves, where the flippin', like the Wuthering Waves title screen thing, where it zoomed through all the magnetic swords and they all was together to form the logo Wuthering Waves, I don't think we're ever one-upping that. This is cool, like 99% less aura than the Augusta one.
Who's my next prey?
The Burning Feathers is pretty sick though.
Did you see the Sense painting? It really opened up their compass.
Dang, wait, she has that much aura that everyone just shut up when she walked in? Damn, look, he got quiet. He looks mad scared. They're terrified. Yo, they're running. Is she that infamous?
This is the upfront. Finish the job
Just tell me, is it a worthy opponent?
Oh my gosh, she has so much aura. Alright. I don't think we gotta break down anymore. I've already done this for 20 minutes. Alright, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video up to this point, then by all means, you should probably subscribe if you haven't. Alright, that means you enjoyed the content. Alright, that's 20 minutes of entertainment I just gave you. Anyway, that's basically that. Alright, if you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button. I'm very, very excited for Galbrena, especially from the people that are gonna be able to follow me. I'm poor. Again, we could just give them money, but I like kind of relying on my luck for Wuthering Waves, okay? I feel like Krogans has given me enough pulls, and I don't even do all the events. You've been getting every character left, right, and center. We gotta take an L and skip somewhere along the lines. But yeah, also, I would love for you to let me know down below, alright? Are you gonna be pulling for Galbrena? Are you excited about her? Did you enjoy her animations, especially in this combat showcase? Because this showcase was actually, like, it was fantastic. The camera wasn't going too crazy, you could see all the moves clearly. Oh my goodness, this was brilliant. It was amazing. So let me know down below in the comments. As I already told you guys to like, right? And I told you to comment. Alright, yeah, just subscribe. I already told you to do that. Bell notification, and with that one, I hope you all had a good one. Remember, until illusion I will see you all tomorrow. Bye!